Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Chakradev.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Chakradev. Acá tenemos a Chris. Chris is you want to introduce yourself?
Chris, new to all
¿Cómo?
of you.
Que puede ver a la gente si la Chakradev no puede. Tiene que mirar para con el dedo para el
Sí,
costado.
claro
puede
que
ver.
sí. Sí, claro que sí. Oh, English. I thought this is English.
Yeah, English. Sorry, I just you know me. Gandini mixes all the languages all the time.
I've never seen you before in my life.
¿Sí la Chakradev?
Hey, are you guys in Oz?
Yeah.
Oh, Gadanya.
G'day, mate.
G'day.
I'm just Who's that on your phone there?
Rama, si le Chakradev, because she's in Florida, but they have a storm. She can't get into the room, so she's in here.
So the Aussie, what are your names there?
I'm Celia.
Oh,
Chris.
Celia and Chris. Are you guys the Aussies?
Yeah, Aussies, and new to the whole Krishna movement. This is the first Bhagavad Gita I've ever read.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Answering all my, my logical, analytical questions, which is great.
Oh, great. I love those. Yeah, true blue Aussies.
True blue.
And Chris, today is the first time he was reading the Bhagavad Gita, no?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I've found
thank you.
things there that I resonate with already.
So, do you guys have any questions? It's like stump the guru. You know, if you stump me, you get a prize.
So we are in chapter 6, Ila Chakradev. And what I noticed, we are in chapter 6 right now of your book. And what I notice is when we read, especially for people who don't have any exposure to Krishna consciousness before, they get really bewildered by the whole different incarnations, gods, demigods, and Vishnus, and Shiva and Brahma.
Oh yeah. It's quite a demography there.
So yeah, how do you dissect it for them? How do you make it more easy because we struggle sometimes to make it for them because the first time, they never heard about God and gods. No. They never heard about Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. They never heard about all these ideas. And we're reading the chapter. For me, it's the more fascinating chapter. But I have
actually, one way to look at it is that the sometimes the Middle Eastern traditions, they're very anthropocentric. It's like it's just God and humans, and but the universe is actually much bigger. It's a much bigger operation than that. And so, if you even if you look at the Old Testament, and this is now according to Old Testament scholars, it's not just my my view, but if you look at the Old Testament, there actually are other deities. And so if you look at, for example, in the first commandment says that you shall have no other God before me. It doesn't say there aren't any other gods. It just says you shall have no other gods before me. And so what the first commandment and the other commandment is trying to establish really is monotheism. And so then what happened is we can actually trace when they kind of went off the rails. And that was, if you look at, for example, good old Paul as in Paul of Tarsus, St. Paul to his buddies. But it's interesting because, he kind of took over the church because he was making all these new members because he was taking it to the Gentiles and all that. And so it's very interesting. So like all the letters in the New Testament, like to the Romans, Corinthians, and Philippians, and everything, they're actual letters. I mean, because Paul was establishing his ministry, and so he was opening centers all over the place, and typical thing, religious movement, all kinds of problems, people fighting, getting confused, arguing, and so on. Just your normal religious movement.
Yeah.
And so, you know what they say, don't feed the humans. Anyway, so it's very interesting because we know what somebody wrote to Paul from his answer. And so apparently one of one of the communities, I forget whether it's Corinth or which community it was, but there was this argument in the community because they wanted to eat meat, but because they were living within pagan culture, the only meat in the marketplace was meat that had been offered to these gods, these other gods. And so some of the people in this community said that we can't eat that meat because it's offered to these false gods. You know, that wonderful language, you know, false gods and dead gods and living gods and all that, true religion. So anyway, but then the other group said, well, since those other gods don't exist, you know, who cares what they offer to? It's like offering it to a tree or I don't know, or a stone or something. So let's just go for the gusto, you know, just eat the meat. And so it's interesting. So Paul's answer to these people was that he said, first of all, it's true that these other gods don't actually exist. But he said, but still, to avoid fighting in the community, you know, maybe it's better to avoid it, but I mean, and not to buy it. But it's very interesting. You can see very clearly how Paul really deviated from the Old Testament tradition. And of course, if you look at the New Testament, it engages constantly in what's called proof texting, which means that they try to prove the divinity of Jesus or that Jesus is the guy by quoting texts from the Old Testament. So at the time of the ministry of Jesus, there was no New Testament. It was just the Old Testament. And so the whole thrust of the Jesus movement, which wasn't even Christianity yet, the whole thrust of it was just to verify the divinity of Jesus by proof texting, by quoting things from the Old Testament. So in that sense, Paul, you know, a little bit off the rails there, because the Old Testament does talk about other gods. In fact, there's even a list of other gods in the Old Testament, like there's this one and that one, and there's Yahweh, but you have to worship Yahweh because, so we don't know, like in the beginning, was it just like their tribal deity, or there's even like scholarly debate, like at what point did it really develop into a true philosophical monotheism, as opposed to just like this is the God of your tribe. But in any case, apart from those historical issues, Paul made a bunch of bad arguments. Like for another really bad argument he made, he was kind of like bashing all the pagan religions. Pagans are actually the good guys in many ways. I'm sort of pro-pagan, but anyway. So Paul gave this argument, which was that how could these deities be actual gods? Because in the pagan world, as in India, it's the same thing. It's basically the same culture. I mean, Greco-Roman religion is basically Mediterranean Hinduism. So Paul gave the argument that if this is really a god, you know, can't he feed himself? He doesn't need you to make all these offerings. But of course, the obvious answer to Paul would be that if you're worshiping the true God, surely if God can prepare his own meals, he can eat for himself, he can also speak for himself. He doesn't need you to speak for him.
Yeah.
And so the real point here is that, like all these offerings, the deities and all that stuff, is just to it's so that we can learn devotion. It's like when you're a little kid and your parents, on their birthday, you know, the other parent takes you out to get a little gift for your mom or your dad, just so you learn how to love someone. Another thing is there's actually a direct connection between, by the way, there's so many misunderstandings in history. Like, for example, this injunction, like, thou shalt not worship graven images. Graven, actually coming from the Sanskrit graven, which means a stone. But anyway, so it's actually a misunderstanding. When I was in Israel, we have a lot of cult members in Israel. But when I was there, I was actually going over the 10 Commandments with the devotees, and of course they're originally in Hebrew, and that's their native language. So we were going word for word over the 10 Commandments. I want to know, what does it really say, especially about this graven image thing. And it actually doesn't say what everyone thinks it says in Hebrew. it's really talking about giving up polytheism, which of course one should do, and accepting that there's one supreme God. And when it says don't make graven images, in context, it's really saying don't make little idols or deity forms of other gods. It doesn't say not to make a visible image of the supreme God. It's funny in English, if you're like competing on a show and you're singing, it's good to be an idol. Like, do they have Australian Idol? Or
yeah, they do. Yeah,
American Idol.
Everyone's got
But if you're a deity, apparently it's not good to be an idol. Anyway, so final point, and then I'll let you go. This is called a harangue, or I guess I'm just like, anyway, and that is, philosophically, there's a direct connection between this kind of irrational rejection of worshiping visible forms of God and the environmental disaster that the world is in. Because the logic behind this rejection of the types of worship that the pagans did and they still do in India, the justification is that because matter is so like icky, that and because God is the supreme sacred, so you can't juxtapose, you can't bring together the supreme sacred and something really icky like matter. And so therefore they think it's a kind of sacrilege. But if you look at the philosophical traditions, even Plato or Plotinus, especially Neoplatonism, if you look at philosophical cultures, they understood that there's an ultimate oneness of everything. So even though matter may not be on the same level as let's say consciousness, because matter, as far as we know, is not conscious, but still it's divine in its own way. It's also part of God. And so therefore the idea that God can actually appear within matter because it's his own energy, it's his own divine creation. And so therefore it's really just in the cultures that kind of trashed philosophically and then physically trashed the material nature, that they don't like the idea of God appearing in a visible form because of their bad attitude toward matter, toward the natural world. And so in fact there was this last little thing. There was this great philosophy of the
we love to hear you, Jared. No problem.
What's that?
Okay.
No rush.
We don't want to take your time, but we are okay here.
Yeah, there was a great pagan philosopher, the Stoics. They were like sort of theistic philosophers, the Stoics, and so they had this understanding, which is actually true, that that God, among other things, also, great dancer, singer, you can sort of do it all, great baseball player, but among other things, God is the supremely rational being. God has supreme intelligence, supreme reason. And so the word they use, sorry, I tend to joke a bit. The word they use for this reason, this divine reason, was logos, from which we get the word like logic. And so the idea is that because the supremely rational being creates the world, therefore the logos permeates the natural world. And that's why it was this understanding, and we also have the logos because we're also created by God. Therefore, our divine reason, our ability to reason is divine, and we can discover that same logos in the natural world. And that is what inspired people in the Renaissance to actually start to do science. So ironically, in other words, the whole scientific revolution was based on a spiritual idea that we have the logos in ourselves, therefore we can understand the logos in the natural world. And that's why they named all the different branches of science ologies, like the logos. like geology, which is just in Greek means the logos of geo, the logos of the earth. Or biology, bios means life. So biology is just the logos of life, of living things. And or physiology, the logos of our physical self. And so it's interesting that, so from that point of view, the natural world is also divine. Interestingly, like maybe 3 generations after Jesus, when the Christian movement was trying to attract intelligent people, because the first crop was they were all actually illiterate according to the New Testament. All the apostles were actually illiterate, the ones that actually knew Jesus until Paul came along. But so therefore, trying to attract educated people in the pagan world, someone wrote a book saying, in the beginning was the Logos. And the Logos became flesh. Of course, it's translated, at the beginning was the Word, but the actual Greek in the New Testament, in the beginning was the Logos. So anyway, it shows the increasing paganization of the Jesus movement. But anyway, so regarding getting back to the original point, even at my age, I'm still lucid. So regarding like all these gods and everything, it's a very rich creation. There's all kinds. To think there's only human beings and God is incredibly sort of anthropo-chauvinistic or something. I mean, it's really silly to think that there's nothing else in the entire universe except human beings.
Yes. Mystic means, sorry.
Go ahead.
What was that word you say?
Oh, anthropo is from the Greek, like anthropocentric. Anthropo means human beings.
Oh,
anthropo.
Okay.
Like anthropology. And so centric, yeah, it's sort of like human centric.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the fact that nature, even physical nature, also in its own way is divine. And that, I mean, even in the Old Testament, for God's sake, people, they don't pay attention. Even in the Old Testament, God, capital G, God appeared to Moses as a burning bush that was burning but never consumed itself. So even in the Old Testament, it's understood that God can appear in nature in a special way. And so, so the worship of deities is actually ecologically fantastic, because the whole problem with the environment is people have forgotten that nature is sacred.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it's kind of one-stop shopping. It kind of solves all of our human problems, this understanding. Okay, I guess I'll let you guys go. I've done my harangue.
Like up till now, Prabhupada used to do the walks, with the devotees and talking. Now we're doing the walk with you, Silachadev.
That's right. Actually, I've got to go home and have my Vegemite.
Yeah. Jai Silachadev.
Hey, it's nice meeting you guys.
Nice to
Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
What's that? Hey, Hare Krishna.
So you want to know who's here, Radha Madhava?
Yeah. Show me who's there.
So Radha, say your word, Radha.
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Varesha.
Oi, gente, como vai?
Tudo bem?
Varesha.
Varesha, where's Varesha?
You can scroll with your phone like this with your finger.
I'm right here. Hi, Bo.
Hey, Varesha.
Hi, Krishna.
Hey, it's nice to see you.
Noel is here because she wants to learn English, so she's practicing her English. Noel is here.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Surprise. Nice surprise.
Then Pravina and Manish and their 2 daughters are in Santa Barbara.
Oh.
Namaste.
Hey, I don't see them yet. Let's see.
Scroll.
Oh, there they are. Pravina.
It's a privilege to see you live in front of us.
Hare Krishna, nice to see you.
Hare Krishna.
Ravina sings very beautiful Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
She includes a nice breathing when she sings. She's beautiful. She sings very beautiful.
Oh,
Not that.
very good. I have to hear that. And who's that young lady there?
Oh.
He's asking who is the girl.
Say namaste to Acharya. Say namaste. She's just shy.
And here we have Rama Silacharadev.
Oh, Rama, let's see. I'm trying to
Go back to my screen. Can you see Rama?
back to your screen. Oh, yeah, there's Rama. Right. You've got her. That is so sci-fi. You've got her captured right there. Oh, my God. That is. It's a good thing that Gandhini is a mutant and she can save Rama from that little device.
I would like to share 2 lines.
Yes.
I think. So sorry for any mistakes in advance. मेरे तो गिरधर गोपाल मेरे तो गिरधर गोपाल दूसरा न कोई दूसरा न कोई.
Hare Krishna. It's beautiful.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Jai Silacharadev.
Hey, it's nice to see all you guys. Hey, Varesha, we got to do a class in your book.
Have a good day.
Hey, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Jai Silacharadev.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye,
meal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you guys later. Hey, say hello to everybody down under there.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
All right, guys. I hope you're happy with the special deal today.